Hi everyone, the NotePlan community has requested and created a user workflow video, which you can see here in the background. Colin has recorded this video, and thanks from my side at this point for doing this. And Stacy, also thanks to Stacy from the community who has initiated this and also edited his video so we can enjoy watching it. I am just helping here with uploading it to the YouTube channel so you can all watch it, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey there, good morning. I wanted to spend a few minutes just talking about how I use NotePlan. So I made myself a little checklist and I figured I'd try and go through it. Certainly you can ask me if there's any questions. I'm going to thank Edward and Stacy for helping me out in advance, making sure they make sure this video is good after I create it. So here's my little checklist for you. I actually live in calendar notes. So everything that I do is in calendar notes. And the reason that I talk about this is because I've created myself a couple little shortcuts that actually allow everything to be entered into calendar notes, whether it be daily, weekly, or some particular notes that I've set aside. So I have a shortcut on my computer that will allow me to do that, and I just go like this, and something should show up and show you there that I can put something into today or this week. I have a log that I keep of the work that I do. I have a project list, then any task. So if it's a personal task, it may not go directly into my calendar note. And then I have a one-line journal and some thoughts if I want to take them as I'm going through the day. I use that on my computer, and I also have that on my iPhone. So if I just hit it over here on my iPhone, in theory, this should open on my phone, and it's the same shortcut. It doesn't show on the screen, but it really is the same exact shortcut. So I live in calendar notes, and then one of the things that I do with calendar notes is that I go through them every single day and clear and move them to where any particular task needs to go. I do have two separate templates that I use, a weekday and a weekend version, and I also have that set up for a keyboard shortcut. So what I kind of do with that is I'll put my weekend journal in there since it is a Sunday, and it should fill into today. And in that weekend journal, I have the things that I need to do, some checks that I have. I put the weather in there. I look at my calendar, some thoughts, and some checklist items that I do for the day. So when I'm thinking about my weekend, that's really or my weekend or my weekday, and actually what keeps things moving forward. Then everything goes in there, and then I clean it up. So I think I talked about the fact that I clean up my tasks every single day. So if you look up out here, the only tasks that have not been cleaned up yet are the ones that have happened over the weekend, and it is Sunday, so I do give myself a little bit of a break. But today I'm also going to go through my weekly cleanup as well as my monthly cleanup, which I'll get to in just a moment. Using JG's dashboard, I go through and keep my dashboard open on my computer all day, whether it be here, whether it be at work. I'm always looking at my dashboard. Again, I've set up a little keyboard shortcut to get my dashboard on the screen. And as you'll see here, it's my dashboard, and I have broken it down into the things that matter to me. I have tags that I use along the way. And then actually I make sure that I go through my projects once a week. So I do use the dashboard quite intensely. And as you'll see here, it's today's tasks, and then some of the things that I have left over from the week, and then moving forward into what I need to do for next month. So I'm going to close the dashboard. Every day I try and give myself the 3 most important tasks that I do, and that also goes into my daily note. And with those 3 important tasks, it also shows up on the dashboard. I think that if we go back to that for a moment, you'll see that I have a big 3 category, right? And it talks about the things that are most important that I need to cover, my big 3 category. So then every Sunday, I do a full review. So I set myself up a little checklist. I insert it into last week, and then I take part of it and I put it into this week. So if we go to last week's note, down here I'm going to insert my weekly checklist. And it's a weekly preview that I've created based on Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner. I like to keep everything electronic. I feel like I always have it with me, so I'm not actually using his planner, even though he does say that writing is much better. But I've set myself up so that I have a full weekly review. I've used the AI to actually summarize my thoughts from the week. Then I answer some questions, and then I think about what works and what didn't work, and then I actually have the things that I'm going to go through today. Right, so as I go through my weekly preview, it takes me through so that nothing gets lost. right? It looks at all the dated tasks, and what I do is I have a filter for all the dated tasks. It's a filter that I call overdue. That'll show me all the dated tasks that are overdue. And then I go through open and overdue, which actually shows some things that are upcoming. Then I go through anything that I'm waiting for a response on. I go through next, and actually there's one more in there. I go through follow-up. I don't know why it's not in there, but I go through follow-up as well. This allows me to get ahead of everything that I have going on. I review all my fleeting and unfiled notes, which for those of us who don't use an inbox, show up right at the bottom of our folders. I'll get into folders in just a moment. I actually check my email, make sure that there is nothing that is in spam that I need. I also go through and zero all of my inboxes, both my work one and my home one. And then I go back and I review my monthly note to see if my big goals are being achieved. And then I make sure that I insert the habits that we saw up above. After that, I think about what's going to happen next week. And I take everything below this line and I will drop it into next week's note so that it absolutely stays on my radar moving forward. When it comes to the monthly review, essentially my monthly pages are just a few things that I wanted to make sure that I got done. So when we look back at September, just some notes that I had from September. I have some other project notes that I'm making sure that I work on, and then I go back and I put that, and I'm going to move it forward to October at some point today. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about all of those different things. So if we go back to today, have I gone through that? I talked about tags, right? I tag a few things that are important to me. I try not to overcommit, and I would actually recommend anybody when they're thinking about what their big three is to use an Eisenhower matrix and focus on the things that are important and not urgent. When I have weekly meetings, I actually use the template for the meeting and I insert it I keep meeting notes. So for every meeting that I have, particularly recurring or even one-off meetings, I actually keep its own note. So for a staff meeting, I would have the staff meeting with every single staff meeting in there. But if it was a one-off meeting, I would keep its own note. I use templates on the side and I insert the template into a new note or into the note that is actually there. I do date stamp everything. So if we were to go to any of my notes or even today, or I think yesterday is a better example. Even yesterday, you'll see that I have references to a conversation that I had. Well, you probably can't see it because we blurred it out, but there's a conversation that I had yesterday and I have it by date and I also have the single note. We talked about checklists and tasks, and then I don't really have a great folder system. I have personal notes, I have work notes, and then I actually have just a few other folders that I haven't figured out how to get rid of. But essentially, I break my life into both work and personal. Right. So as I go through today, all these notes will get filed. And I'll be able to start tomorrow with a clean slate, looking at everything that I have going on. And whether it be a project here or something that I need to do this week, I'll also have references per day. I hope that was clear. I tried my best to show. Certainly, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thanks so much.